Welding up some parts at the moment. I just sort of include you guys in on my setup, I suppose. It's a fairly basic setup. I've got the Welding Positioner, or eBay Welding Positioner, some people refer to it as. I will come back in a future video and do another review and answer some of the questions more so about the specifications, more so to do with the capacity of the chuck and so on, and some other questions that might have come up in comments that might help you guys. I've had it for a few years now, and I'll put a card at the end of this video to take you back to that first video, and there's a couple following after that where I'm talk a bit more about it and modifications and so on to get it how I want. And there is a video there of TIG welding with it, so it will give you an idea of like speed, how slow it'll turn and things like that. So there's some of the questions that come up about the Welding Positioner. As I say, I won't be using it in this video, but as I say, we'll get back to that video when I get a chance anyway, do another, maybe like a basic review I suppose, and as I say, cover those questions. So just bringing on these parts that I'm welding at the moment, so just rotating these by hand, and they're a handle that I make. Thankfully I make these on the CNC lathe now, so I was cutting these Acme threads on the manual lathe before, but thankfully, as I say, get them done on the CNC. So it's a fairly basic part that I make as an ongoing job, and all I'm doing is just welding these bushes on at the end here. You can see the welds around there, so they're all just rotated by hand. And the little poor man's welding position is the title that I sort of, well, what I find works anyway. Some people don't agree with it, thinking I'm trying to send or tell you guys the wrong way to do things, but anyway, I'll leave that for you to decide. So just bring you back to the setup, not waste too much more time. So the fixture, I suppose you could say, is more than an actual positioner. It's not really a positioner, it's a poor man's positioner, so you're the man turning it, so that's where it classes as a poor man's positioner. So this was my fixture for tacking the parts up and then TIG welding them in the Welding Positioner. So this was just to be able to set the length of the handle up to the bush, and then just tacking them and taking them over and then welding them in that position. But I've since switched over to MIG welding, and now it's sort of hard to say which is better, I suppose. The TIG's nicer, but it's a lot slower, and the MIG's faster, but there is clean-up to do. So there's that give and take on either way of doing things, but I'm just finding MIG welding still working out a lot quicker anyway, and I don't mind linishing the welds up anyway, cleaning the handles up anyway. It just gives it a better product, and it actually looks a lot better with that the fillet weld on there than I suppose, how can I say it? Well, you've got an external fillet, I suppose, where you've got your reinforcement on the outside, whereas TIG's just around the base. So it was only a small weld. As with TIG welding, you don't need a big weld, and MIG usually relies on weld metal to hold things together. So it was sort of half, as I say, which one was better, it doesn't really matter. But as I say, with the position, that was the whole point of buying that Welding position, was to weld these actual parts and other parts that came in. So just taking a bit more of a look at the setup that I have. Nothing too high tech, just trying to keep it simple, and it works well. So it's something you guys can set up. Magnetic base that actually just holds the torch, but also sets, it's just a rest as much as anything else. So it's something that you guys can think about too. You can also unbolt this and bolt stems on there and things like that to give yourself a bit of a rest. And they've got a pretty fairly strong magnet there too, so you don't have to worry about it falling over easy. So they do work very well, even just as a something for a rest, or even just a jig of some or a basic jig, I suppose. I've got a couple of these that I use for making different parts, and I just use these more so as a rest or to hold parts when I'm tacking and so on. So fairly basic setup, but it works well. Just take you through the fixture a little bit more. The copper bush that's in there at the moment is not essential. Obviously the copper will give better contact between obviously the earth and your torch, but I was just welding them prior with steel to steel. The reason I put the copper in there was the material was coming in at a slightly larger size, and it basically wasn't fitting in the hole, so I had to bore it out. And then when the material's gone back to the original size that was being supplied, it was too loose, so I took that opportunity to bore it out and then make up this copper bush. and put that in there. So it's just an insert that's pressed in there, and then boards the size. So as I say, it's up to you. You want to do it in copper, so it's just steel in copper, or whatever it might be. You might have a totally different setup. Obviously you're not going to be welding these, but something that might work for you. You need a nice weld around a round part, and it's just a good setup to be able to do that type of thing without spending money and buying something like that. So, or even just to get you going so you can justify buying something like that. So it's just a bit, as I say, these videos just a bit of food for thought, and a couple of videos on my channel showing different things being welded by just rotating them around, exactly how I weld this part. So you're welcome to have a look at those videos and let me know your thoughts. As I say, we'll get back and do another review on the V4 welding positioner, but for the moment we'll just get you set up on the tripod and I'll run a weld around the part, and we'll bring you back and have a look at the weld when it's finished. So I've got you zoomed in nice and close anyway. I'll get myself in position again and then we'll just run a weld. So I'll just leave the video running. I'm not great on editing videos. It'll probably take me a year to get around to putting a video out. I've had to rely on editing, so you have to excuse the maybe a little bit average video if it's not coming out that great. But as I say, I'll get myself set up. What I do is just before I start, I just spin the handle around because I've got to sit back down again and get myself comfortable again, and then I'll rotate the part while I'll rotate the handle around just to make sure I'm comfortable and I can reach all the way around so I'm not overstretching myself and then finding out I'm stuffing up the weld because I'm not comfortable where I am. Obviously most of you know, if you've done welding before, if you're not comfortable, you don't weld that well, and when you're comfortable, you weld really well. So I'll just get myself set up and we'll get going with it. You might get a bit of light. There is a filter on the camera, but I don't know if it'll cut out the light totally. So you will get the arc obviously from this side, so you have to allow for that when you're watching the video. Hopefully the camera's picking up my voice. I'm actually get the right word. So just get myself set up again. Hopefully the weld comes out okay. Rather than bring the part over to the camera, I'll bring the camera over to the part. Might be a bit easier just to show you the part. Now here's hoping that the camera will stay in focus anyway. So the weld on there is pretty good. So I start around the other side here, so we have a little bit of start-stop there, so they will get lineage. So they just have a little, maybe a small lump there. So they do vary from time to time, especially when you're stopping to shoot videos. You do lose your momentum, especially just rotating by hand. So you can see that part on there. Once you do a few runs, you do start to smoothen out. Probably the first couple don't come out great, but they're not terrible. But it's just, you just get the torch angle and things like that, and just get the momentum, how fast you're turning it. And that's probably even the hard thing, even on this positioner too, is probably dialing in the speed. Is probably at the start is probably the hardest part. You'll probably stuff up a couple of parts before you get dialed in. And then you write down your settings, so that's those little white stickers on top there. Rather than writing all over the box, I put those little stickers on there, and then I can change them, take them off if I have changes or I don't do that part anymore. So there's little white stickers on top here, so you get your setting and just write those settings on top there, what you're welding, and maybe a bit of information about the actual part or whatever. So I just keep those on there. And you just, as I say, rather than writing, most people see, if you've worked in any sort of welding shop or whatever, you'll see writing all over boxes, all over the outside of MIG welders, and I don't understand them guys who do that, because they come out next week to their welding school or where it might be, and they can't even remember what they even wrote down. So, as I say, just a little tip, just get those little stickers and just stick them on there, and just write your settings down. And then if it changes, just peel them off and write a new, and put a new one on there, and then write your new settings on there. So as you can see, that's rotated by hand, worked out well. Hopefully the video was worth coming and watching, and if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. And as I say, we'll get back to doing a review on the V4 welding positioner. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that and answering a few questions that were coming up in the videos. I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Okay, bye bye for now.